I'd like to welcome you to the House, Minister, and to welcome the opportunity to resume our committee stage debate on this important bill. I'd like to wish colleagues well for Daffodil Day. I know we're all wearing the masks that the Irish Cancer Society have supplied so kindly. I want to thank the Minister for coming in to deal with the bill, and indeed for her very constructive engagement with me, and I've been glad to engage constructively, Minister, with you and with your officials since the last occasion we were in this House. Since Section 2 is the substantive section within the bill, I know that colleagues will have quite a good deal to say on it, and I know, Minister, you also wish to speak in particular on Section 2.1. But I thought it might be helpful if I first just bring colleagues up to date on what has been happening with this bill and a little on the context for it. I should first acknowledge last night's RT Investigates programme, the primetime programme, in which journalist Conor Ryan is really to be commended for bringing forward the experience of whistleblower Shane Corr, speaking about the rights of children and their families who were so affected by the description of the sharing of confidential documents and reports. And my colleague Senator Sherlock has already on the order of business linked that report last night with the topic of this bill today. So I just wanted to refer to that. But this bill, of course, deals with the rights of children in a different context, and that is in the context of immigration law and of citizenship law. What we seek to do in this Labour Party bill is to provide children born in Ireland to parents who are not themselves Irish citizens with an easier route or a more accessible route to citizenship through naturalisation. We come to this from the fundamental premise that two children born alongside each other in an Irish hospital who attend school together should not have different legal status in terms of entitlement to citizenship in Ireland by virtue of their parents' legal status. And so what we seek to do, therefore, is in keeping with the provisions of Article 9(2)(1, and that, of course, is the article that was inserted into the Constitution through the 27th Amendment in 2004, the Citizenship Referendum Amendment, an amendment which indeed Labour opposed at the time. That amendment says that, notwithstanding any other provision of this Constitution, a person born in the island of Ireland, which includes its islands and seas, who does not have, at the time of the birth of that person, at least one parent who is an Irish citizen or entitled to be an Irish citizen, is not entitled to Irish citizenship or nationality unless provided for by law. And I know there's been a good deal of commentary about our bill online, and I would just stress that that amendment and the text of Article 9(2)(1 expressly provides the Oireachtas with power to provide for citizenship rights for children born in Ireland to non-national parents. It expressly gives the Oireachtas the power, the exclusive power, to legislate for citizenship entitlements for those children. And that's what we are seeking to do in this bill, and in particular through Section 2 of this bill, which we're focusing on in today's debate. The effect of the phrase of the amendment, of course, was to change what had previously been the case, and indeed under the Good Friday Agreement is the case, that it was the entitlement and birthright of anyone born in the island of Ireland to be part of the Irish nation. And we know that, of course, the 27th Amendment was implemented by subsequent legislation, the Irish Nationality and Citizenship Act 2004. The principle of birthright citizenship is a principle which we in Labour would like to see restored, and we've made no secret of that. And I do want to commend our colleagues in Labour Youth, and in particular our late colleague, who very sadly died in 2019, Cormac O'Brien, who really championed the born here, belong here principle, seeking to restore birthright citizenship to our law. But what we sought to do with this bill, which we brought forward in 2018, was to provide not an overturning of the referendum, but some incremental progressive change for children born in Ireland to non-national parents. And the bill seeks to make 3 changes to the naturalisation regime to make it easier for children born here to achieve citizenship. And Section 2 is the crucial section in terms of the changes we sought to make, or we seek to make. First, someone normally at present, a child born in Ireland who is seeking citizenship through naturalisation must have 5 years residence. We were seeking to change that requirement to 3 years, and that's in essence what is provided for in Section 2.1 of the bill. And I know, Minister, you've indicated you'll be making some commitment to change on that, and I really welcome your commitment and your constructive engagement with us on that. The second change, again being made through Section 2, in this case Section 2, subsection 2, would be to decouple the minor, the child's entitlement to apply for naturalisation from that of the parent or guardian. And I know, Minister, again, you may say something on that, and you've indicated you'll do so in terms of looking to see if it's possible to make some change on that. There's a third change our bill sought to make, of course, or seeks to make, which is through Section 3, which refers to the period of residency that is to be counted for the years of residence prior to applying for citizenship. But we believe that this bill represents, therefore, an incremental progressive change if it were to be implemented, that it represents a sensible and compassionate approach to regularising the position of Irish-born children who have spent years of their childhood resident in this country, but who currently face an uncertain future and, in some cases, even the threat of deportation. And we know the bill has public support. A recent Behaviour and Attitudes poll shows over 70% of people believe that those children born in Ireland should be entitled to citizenship. So it's in that spirit we brought the bill forward in 2018, and of course we were also very much motivated by the case of Eric Sway, a young boy born in Ireland and whose family had lived in Bray. He was in school in Bray, and yet his family were threatened with deportation. When we brought the bill forward in November 2018, on the 21st November it was debated at second stage, and colleagues will recall that Fianna Fáil and the Green Party supported it at the time, and indeed it passed second stage despite then government opposition. We brought it back then in Labour private members' time at committee stage on the 2nd of December of last year, 2020, and we adjourned after debating on Section 1. We adjourned on that date, Lasca Hirlich, on the basis that the Minister had committed, and again I thank you, Minister, that we would have some engagement in the interim to see how we could make progress. So just to update colleagues, since that date of 2nd December, I have indeed engaged with the Minister. We've met on 2 occasions with you and your officials on 16th December and 10th of February, and culminating in some agreement as to what can be done, and in some ways that we can see some movement on, in particular on the provision of Section 2.1, and we very much welcome that. And I do thank you, Minister, for your statement issued on just earlier this week on the 23rd of March, referring to this bill and to our discussions, and saying that you are going to reduce the amount of time that children born in Ireland have to be resident in the state to become Irish citizens from 5 years to 3 years. So essentially that you'll be implementing Section 2.1 of the bill through a government bill to be brought forward later this year. And I do thank you for that. I would ask, however, that you would consider the other aspects of the bill, and I know you've committed to exploring, in respect of the Section 2.2 provision, whether it would be possible for TUSLA to apply for citizenship on behalf of older children in light of particular difficulties. So I appreciate that too. I have just to finish, because I know, Minister, you wish to get in, and as do other colleagues, just to finish by saying I've been very grateful, as of my party, for the support from so many NGOs, from the Migrant Rights Centre, the Immigrant Council of Ireland, the Movement of Asylum Seekers in Ireland and the Children's Rights Alliance, among others. But I know the Migrant Rights Centre in particular have expressed disappointment that undocumented children won't benefit from the change that you've indicated you'll be making as a result of our negotiations or our discussions. And indeed, the Migrant Rights Centre say that a child such as Eric Sway, prior to his family getting their status, would not benefit from this. Thus, they're very concerned that many children born in Ireland will still be left in a vulnerable position, and they're seeking clarity on the statement you've made about the change you're proposing, that the amendment would only apply to the children of parents who are legally resident in the state, and they're asking for greater clarity on that. So I would echo their calls, and to say that, of course, from our own point of view, I'm disappointed that the amendment we've proposed, Lasca Hirlich, to Section 2 has been ruled out of order. But certainly from a Labour point of view, we'll continue to be campaigning on the born here, belong here principle, and I look forward to further constructive engagement with you on that. So I know the Minister wants to get in on the section.
Before I call Senator McDougall, Minister, do you want to intervene now, or when do you wish to respond to? Yeah, well, if you take it now, and then I'll call Senator McDougall. Yeah.
Is that okay? Sorry, I'll speak fast, so I'll be as quick as I can, but thank you, Cathaoirleach, and just to start by thanking and acknowledging the work of Senator Bacic and her Labour Party colleagues. Since the last time we discussed this matter, as you've just outlined, I have a very good engagement with yourself, Senator, on a number of citizenship issues, and I want to thank you for that ongoing engagement. At the previous sitting of committee stage, which was back in December, I committed to reviewing the bill further, and further to this at Cabinet at a meeting earlier this week. I brought a memo to Government setting forth plans to amend some parts of the Irish Nationality and Citizenship Act as part of the Courts and Civil Law Miscellaneous Provisions Bill, which, as the Senator said, we hope to have progressed and implemented later on this year. The general scheme of the bill will include a number of amendments relevant to citizenship and immigration matters, but maybe just before I speak to those particular amendments in this section, I want to update the Seanad on a key development in this area. I understand that the Labour Party intention in introducing this bill is obviously to provide a solution and certainty and clarity for children who are undocumented in this state. I'm happy to inform the Seanad that the programme for government commitment to introduce a regularisation scheme of the long-term undocumented is well underway. It's obviously progressed since we last met in December. The scheme will be broad. I do think it will be generous. It will provide a pathway to citizenship through legal, reckonable residence for many adults and children in the state, and it is still intended, as I'd set out, that this scheme will be introduced and launched in the third quarter of this year, with a view to accepting applications before the end of the year, in line with that commitment in the programme for government that it would be done within the first 18 months. Thereby, it will provide that route to regularisation and permission to remain legally in Ireland for a significant number of individuals. And obviously, without fully knowing the number, it appears as though you could have potentially more than 3,000 children who will benefit from that, and a significant amount more of their parents and adults. I would also like to maybe reiterate that Ireland is a diverse, it's an open country, and it welcomes many new citizens each year. Indeed, since 2010, just under 29,000 children, including 25,000 children of non-EEA nationals, have become citizens in Ireland through naturalisation. This reflects existing citizenship requirements, which are very straightforward, I think, in comparison to other European jurisdictions, and require no civic or financial requirements, but legal, reckonable residence in the state for 5 years in total. And I outlined earlier in a commencement matter in the House how we have introduced a new system to deal with the fact that we can't have in-person citizenship ceremonies, and we hope to address and to reach over 6,000 people between now and the end of June, and obviously that will deal with a lot of the backlogs that currently exist. In relation to the section we're discussing, section 2.1, one of the amendments that I intend to introduce through government legislation will reflect in part section 2.1 of the private members bill as discussed and as the Senator has outlined. This will reduce the number of years residence required for children born in the state to become eligible for citizenship by naturalisation from 5 to 3 years. This proposal will allow children who are currently on a pathway to citizenship to attain this status at an earlier stage. I think it offers greater security of status to a child who can acquire Irish and thereby EU citizenship more easily than is currently the case. With this proposed government-led amendment, Ireland will be one of the most generous in the EU in terms of the year of residence required for foreign national children born here to gain citizenship by naturalisation, and I look forward to further debate on this amendment as the government bill moves through the Houses in the Oireachtas. I also understand that while giving effect in part to section 2.1 of the private members in a government bill, it is an important collaborative effort. And as Minister for Justice, I understand that in order to reduce the number of persons who become undocumented in the state, improvements do need to be made on a wider basis in an immigration process, in particular in the area of international protection. The recommendations of the Catherine Day report, which was published by our colleague Minister Roderick O'Gorman, focuses in particular on progressing significant improvements in processing procedures, in timelines for decisions to ensure that the system is adequately resourced and that backlogs are addressed. A white paper setting out the proposed approach to transitioning from direct provision accommodation for improved living arrangements and supports for those who are in our or would generally end up in that system was published back in 26th of February, and I look forward to further engagement with Minister O'Gorman in particular, as well as other ministers, as we progress these matters. And we've received already funding for 2021 to improve our investment in ICT to try and improve and speed up those systems. So finally, just again to give that commitment, I'm progressing the proposed Courts and Civil Law Miscellaneous Bill, which, as I've stated, captures some of the aims of this private members bill, in particular section 2.1, in supporting children born in the state. Secondly, if we're talking about section 2.2, the private members bill, which removes that requirement for an application to be made by a parent, a guardian or a person who is in loco parentis to a child, the government has agreed, or I have agreed, working with yourself, Senator, to engage further with the Minister for Children, who I have spoken to about this already, to explore providing TUSLA with a legal power to apply for citizenship on behalf of a child in the state. And there's just still some further work that needs to be done before we can give that commitment. But I think a sense of belonging and identity is crucial for children, and it's my intention that all necessary barriers can be removed, and this is potentially another barrier that we can remove. It's important to stress as well that in some cases the acquisition of Irish citizenship may not be in the interest of a child, particularly if there is a potential loss of certain rights or privileges of the child's country of origin. But naturally this is a complex space, and that's why we want to take that little bit more time to engage further with TUSLA and the Department of Children. But again, I just want to restate my gratitude to Senator Bacic, to the Labour Party, and to recognise the contributions of the late Labour Youth Chair Cormac O'Brien and his passion for public service. I think it's an example of all young people in Ireland, and I suppose one that we want to ensure that we can fulfil and live up to the huge commitment that he made in his life, and just to acknowledge that. And again, thank you for your cooperation, Senator.
Thank you very much, Minister. And indeed, while it's not appropriate for the Chair to intervene, I just want to identify with the remarks about Cormac O'Brien. I think that's heartfelt right across the House. His death was tragic, and we all admire what he was doing.